Understanding what truly triggers an avoidance desire has many times proven to be the point of difference between a healthy relationship and a failed one. The fundamental psychological patterns that drive the avoidance behavior can be used to keep you in the driving seat and to reclaim your power while potentially creating conditions for healthier relationship dynamics. These four strategies work not because they're quick hacks or cheap party tricks. They address the core psychological needs and fears that motivate avoidant behavior, transforming you from someone who chases into someone who becomes impossible to ignore. 1. Disappear without a trace. The most psychologically powerful action you can take with an avoidant partner is to vanish completely from their awareness without explanation, drama, or emotional displays. This isn't about playing hard to get or creating artificial scarcity. It's about genuinely removing yourself from their psychological landscape so thoroughly that they begin to question whether they've lost something irreplaceable. Throughout your relationship with an avoidant, they operated from a position of psychological security, knowing that you were emotionally invested, available, and unlikely to completely disappear. Your consistent presence, even during their withdrawal periods, allowed them to take you for granted while maintaining their emotional distance. They could withdraw knowing you would still be there when they decided to return, creating a dynamic where they controlled the emotional temperature without consequences. When you disappear without a trace, you shatter this fundamental assumption about your availability and create a psychological crisis that forces them to confront the reality of potentially losing you permanently. This isn't the gradual withdrawal or temporary distance they're accustomed to managing. It's the complete absence of your emotional energy from their world. True disappearance means eliminating every possible way they can monitor your emotional state or maintain connection to your life. This includes complete social media silence, no responses to their attempts at contact, no communication through mutual friends, and no presence in places where they might encounter you. You become a complete mystery, existing nowhere in their awareness except in their own thoughts and memories. The psychological mechanism at work here is the sudden activation of their attachment system when faced with genuine threat of permanent loss. While avoidants spend most of their time suppressing their attachment needs, the complete absence of their secure base triggers panic responses that override their conscious desire for independence. They begin to experience the fear of abandonment they've spent their lives avoiding. Your total disappearance also forces them to confront the emptiness in their life that your presence was filling. Without your emotional energy, support, and attention to distract them, they're left alone with their own emotional void and the reality of what life looks like without someone who genuinely cared about them. This confrontation often becomes unbearable, driving them to seek reconnection. The power of this strategy lies in how it respects their stated desire for space while making that space complete and potentially permanent. You're not violating their boundaries or pursuing them against their wishes. You're simply honoring their withdrawal by making it total. This response often catches them completely off guard because they expected you to fight for the relationship or maintain some form of connection. What makes disappearing particularly effective is that it removes all the psychological rewards they typically receive from their avoidant behavior. Usually, their withdrawal creates anxiety and pursuit from their partners, which validates their importance and control over the relationship dynamic. When you disappear instead of pursuing, they lose this validation and begin to question their own worth and desirability. Your disappearance also creates what psychologists call phantom X syndrome, the tendency to idealize and long for someone who becomes completely unavailable. Without daily reminders of relationship conflicts or their own emotional limitations, their mind focuses on positive memories and begins to romanticize what they've lost. This idealization process often motivates them to attempt reconnection. The timing of your disappearance is crucial for maximum psychological impact. The most effective disappearance occurs when they're expecting your usual pattern of pursuit or emotional reaction. When they withdraw, expecting you to chase, and instead you vanish completely, the contrast between their expectations and reality creates cognitive dissonance that demands resolution. Your disappearance must be authentic, rather than performed, for it to have genuine psychological impact. You're not hiding while secretly monitoring their response. You're actually rebuilding your life without them. You're not disappearing to get their attention. You're disappearing because you genuinely need space to heal and grow independently. This authenticity is what makes the strategy psychologically powerful, rather than manipulative. The key to successful disappearing is ensuring that your absence serves your own healing and growth, rather than being primarily motivated by a desire to trigger their return. When your disappearance is genuinely about protecting your emotional well-being and creating space for personal development, it carries an energy of self-respect that avoidants find both attractive and threatening. 2. Become completely unpredictable. Avoidants derive much of their sense of security and control from being able to predict and manage others' emotional responses and behaviors. Throughout your relationship, you likely developed patterns that made you psychologically comfortable for them to be around. Predictable reactions to their withdrawal, consistent availability despite their inconsistency, and understandable responses to their emotional limitations. Becoming genuinely unpredictable destroys this comfort and forces them to pay attention to you in entirely new ways. Unpredictability doesn't mean becoming erratic or unstable. It means systematically breaking every behavioral pattern they've come to expect from you. If you typically respond to their emotional distance with pursuit and anxiety, instead respond with complete indifference or even mild amusement. If you usually accommodate their schedule and availability, instead become mysteriously unavailable yourself. If you generally express your emotions openly and directly, instead become enigmatically private about your inner world. The psychological power of unpredictability lies in how it challenges their assumption that they understand and can control your psychology. Avoidants often lose interest in partners who become too emotionally transparent or behaviorally predictable because they no longer present any psychological challenge or mystery. When you become unpredictable, you reignite their curiosity and force them to invest mental energy in trying to understand you again. Social media provides powerful opportunities for strategic unpredictability that can completely alter their perception of who you are. Instead of posting the emotional, relationship-focused content they expect from you, share images and updates that reveal completely unexpected sides of your personality. Take up new hobbies they never heard you mention. Visit places they didn't know interested you. Socialize with people they've never met, or pursue goals they never knew you had. The goal is to become someone they feel they never fully knew or understood, despite the time you spent together. When they see evidence of interests, friendships, and activities that were apparently hidden during your relationship, they begin to question how well they actually knew you. This questioning process often creates a desire to explore and discover these unknown aspects of your personality. Your unpredictability should extend to your emotional responses to them specifically. Instead of reacting with hurt when they're distant, respond with curious detachment. Instead of expressing anger about their emotional limitations, show mild entertainment or philosophical acceptance. Instead of trying to convince them of your worth, demonstrate it through actions that have nothing to do with them. The unpredictability strategy works because it triggers novelty-seeking behavior in the avoidance brain. Human psychology is wired to pay attention to unexpected stimuli while ignoring predictable patterns. When you become genuinely unpredictable, you activate their novelty-seeking circuits and compel their attention in ways that familiar behavior never could. This approach also demonstrates personal growth and evolution that occurred independently of them, which can be both attractive and threatening to avoidance. Instead of remaining stuck in the same patterns that characterized your relationship, You've transformed into someone new and intriguing. This growth makes them wonder what other changes they've missed and whether they misjudged your potential. Your unpredictability should also include evidence of emotional healing and development that contradicts their assumptions about how their departure affected you. Instead of being devastated by their absence, you appear to be thriving in unexpected ways. Instead of becoming bitter about their treatment, you seem to have gained wisdom and perspective. Instead of being diminished by the experience, you appear to have been enhanced by it. The most psychologically powerful form of unpredictability involves developing aspects of yourself that they actively discouraged or dismissed during your relationship. If they criticized your emotional expressiveness, become selectively vulnerable with others while remaining emotionally neutral with them. If they dismissed your social needs, build a thriving social life that doesn't include them. If they minimized your goals and ambitions, pursue them with newfound energy and success. This transformation demonstrates that their influence over you was temporary rather than permanent, and that you're capable of growth and change they never inspired or witnessed. This realization often triggers regret about not appreciating your potential when they had access to it, and curiosity about what other capabilities they failed to recognize or develop. Your unpredictability must be authentic rather than performed to have genuine psychological impact. Real unpredictability comes from actually expanding your horizons, developing new interests, and becoming a more complex and interesting person. The goal isn't to confuse them, it's to become someone genuinely worth their curiosity and respect. The timing and subtlety of your unpredictable reveals are important for maximum psychological effect. Instead of dramatically announcing changes, let them discover your evolution gradually through social media posts, mutual friend reports, or accidental encounters. The organic discovery of your transformation is more psychologically powerful than obvious attempts to get their attention. 3. Mirror their energy with perfect calm. Perhaps the most psychologically sophisticated strategy for dealing with avoidance is mirroring their exact emotional energy while maintaining perfect inner calm and equilibrium. This approach is devastatingly effective because it removes the emotional rewards they typically receive from their avoidant behavior while demonstrating the kind of emotional strength they find both attractive and threatening. Throughout your relationship, your natural responses to their emotional distance probably included anxiety, pursuit, emotional intensity, or attempts to create connection they weren't offering. These responses, while understandable, actually reinforce their avoidant patterns by providing them with validation and control over the relationship dynamic. When you mirror their energy instead, you eliminate these psychological rewards and force them to confront their own emotional emptiness. Mirroring means matching their level of emotional investment exactly, without exceeding it or falling below it. If they send brief, factual text messages, you respond with equally brief, factual responses. If they take days to respond to your communications, you match their response time precisely. If they maintain emotional distance during conversations, you remain equally detached without pursuing deeper connection. The crucial element that makes this strategy powerful is the calm inner state you maintain while mirroring their behavior. You're not matching their distance with hurt, anger, or passive-aggressive resentment. You're matching it with genuine emotional equilibrium and self-possession. This demonstrates that you can exist comfortably without their emotional investment, which both threatens their sense of importance and attracts them to your emotional strength. Your calm mirroring forces them to experience the full impact of their own emotional distance without the distraction of managing your emotional reactions. When you stop providing emotional intensity for them to react against, they're left alone with their own emotional limitations and the reality of the distance they've created. This experience often becomes uncomfortable enough to motivate them toward greater emotional engagement. The psychological mechanism behind mirroring's effectiveness is that it removes the avoidant's sense of control over the relationship dynamic while demonstrating emotional competence they find attractive. Avoidants are often drawn to emotionally stable people who don't become reactive or demanding, but they typically lose interest when these people become too available or predictable. Calm mirroring maintains your attractiveness while preventing them from taking you for granted. This strategy also triggers what psychologists call protest behavior in avoidance. When their usual methods of maintaining control stop working, they often increase their efforts to regain your emotional investment. They may become more attentive, ask personal questions, or express concern about your well-being. Behaviors designed to test whether they can still trigger emotional responses from you. Your mirroring should extend to all aspects of your interaction with them, including your availability for contact, your willingness to discuss relationship issues, and your investment in their emotional well-being. Don't ask about their feelings if they don't ask about yours. Don't make yourself available for emotional support if they don't offer the same. Don't invest energy in understanding their behavior if they don't show interest in understanding yours. The beauty of calm mirroring is that it protects your emotional well-being while potentially triggering their increased interest. Instead of depleting yourself, trying to create connection with someone who's emotionally unavailable, you conserve your emotional resources while demonstrating that you can thrive without their validation or attention. This approach often reveals the extent to which your previous emotional investment was enabling their avoidant behavior. When you stop overfunctioning emotionally in the relationship, they're forced to either step up to meet you at your level of investment or experience the relationship becoming increasingly distant and unsatisfying. Many avoidants choose to increase their emotional engagement rather than lose the connection entirely. Your calm mirroring must be sustained over time to be effective, regardless of their attempts to regain control through increased attention or emotional manipulation. They may temporarily increase their emotional availability to test whether they can restore your previous level of investment, but if you maintain your mirroring, they often realize they need to sustain higher levels of emotional engagement to maintain your interest. The key to successful mirroring is ensuring that your calm state is genuine rather than performed. You're not pretending to be unaffected. You're actually developing the emotional strength to remain stable regardless of their behavior. This authenticity is what makes the strategy psychologically powerful rather than manipulative. Your mirroring should also include matching their level of future planning and commitment discussion. If they avoid talking about the future, you avoid bringing it up. If they don't make plans more than a few days in advance, you don't push for longer-term commitments. If they don't discuss relationship goals, you don't attempt to create those conversations. This comprehensive mirroring forces them to take responsibility for the level of emotional intimacy and connection in the relationship. Instead of you always pushing for deeper engagement while they resist, they must decide how much connection they actually want and be willing to initiate it themselves. 4. Start living a life they can't touch. The most transformative and ultimately powerful strategy for becoming appealing to an avoidant is creating a life so fulfilling, dynamic, and independent that they realize they have no access to or control over your happiness. This isn't about making them jealous or proving your worth. It's about genuinely building a life that demonstrates your value while showing them exactly what they're missing by remaining emotionally distant. A life they can't touch means developing sources of fulfillment, excitement, and meaning that exist completely independently of them and any romantic relationship. You're not creating this life to get their attention. You're creating it because it genuinely satisfies you and represents who you are when you're not trying to earn someone else's love or approval. This strategy works because avoidants are psychologically attracted to self-sufficient, independent people who don't need them for validation or happiness. However, They typically lose interest in partners who become too available or whose lives revolve around the relationship. When you demonstrate that you can create an amazing life without their input or presence, you become the kind of person they originally found attractive, while showing them what they lost through their emotional unavailability. Your untouchable life should include developing new friendships and deepening existing relationships that provide the emotional support and connection they couldn't or wouldn't offer. Surround yourself with people who appreciate your emotional availability and reciprocate your investment. Let them see through social media or mutual acquaintances that you're capable of creating meaningful connections when you're with people who value emotional intimacy. Career advancement and personal achievement become powerful elements of your untouchable life because they demonstrate your capabilities and ambitions independent of romantic validation. Whether it's pursuing promotions, starting creative projects, completing educational goals, or taking on personal challenges, show them that you're someone who creates success and fulfillment through your own efforts and talents. Travel and new experiences expand your horizons while creating stories and memories they'll never be part of. Each adventure makes you more interesting and complex while demonstrating that life without them isn't just tolerable, it's exciting and fulfilling. These experiences also provide perspective on the relationship and help you recognize your own worth independently of their validation. Physical and mental health improvements become visible manifestations of your thriving independence, whether it's fitness achievements, new hobbies that challenge you, or personal development work that enhances your emotional well-being. These improvements show that you're investing in yourself and becoming a better version of who you were during the relationship. Creative pursuits and passion projects demonstrate depths of your personality they may never have known existed, whether it's art, music, writing, or any other form of creative expression. These activities show that you contain multitudes they never discovered and passions they never inspired or supported. The psychological impact of your untouchable life operates on multiple levels. First, it triggers their fear of missing out by showing them experiences and achievements they're not part of. Second, it demonstrates your resilience and ability to thrive without them, which challenges their assumption that they were essential to your happiness. Third, it makes you more attractive by revealing your full potential as a person. Your thriving independence also creates what psychologists call phantom regret, the nagging feeling that they made a mistake by not investing more in the relationship when they had the chance. Seeing you flourish without them forces them to question whether their emotional distance was worth losing access to your energy, potential, and the life you're now building. This strategy requires genuine commitment to your own growth and happiness rather than performing success to get their attention. The goal is to actually become a more interesting, accomplished, and fulfilled person, not to create an illusion of these qualities. Authenticity is what makes this approach sustainable and psychologically powerful. Your untouchable life should also include evidence of your emotional healing and growth from the relationship experience. Show them that you've learned from the relationship, developed better boundaries, and gained insights into your own patterns. This demonstrates that you're not the same person they left. You're someone who has evolved beyond the limitations that characterized your previous dynamic. Social media becomes a powerful tool for showcasing your untouchable life, but the content should be authentic rather than calculated. Share moments of genuine joy, achievement, and connection that represent who you're becoming, rather than posting specifically to get their attention. The organic nature of your happiness and success is more psychologically powerful than obvious attempts at image management. Your untouchable life should include openness to new romantic possibilities without rushing into replacement relationships. While you're not desperately seeking new love, you're also not closing yourself off to connection because of your experience with them. This openness shows them that they're replaceable and that you're not waiting around for them to become emotionally available. The most powerful aspect of your untouchable life is that it continues to grow and evolve, regardless of whether they notice or respond. You're not building this life to win them back. You're building it because it represents who you are when you're free to pursue your authentic interests and goals without accommodation to someone else's emotional limitations. This comprehensive transformation often triggers the most intense psychological response in avoidance because it demonstrates everything they could have been part of if they had been emotionally available. Instead of seeing you diminished by their absence, they see you enhanced by your freedom to pursue your full potential. Your untouchable life becomes a mirror that reflects their own emotional limitations back to them. While you're growing, achieving, and connecting, they remain stuck in the same patterns of emotional avoidance that prevented them from participating in your growth. This contrast often motivates them to reconsider their approach to relationships and emotional engagement. The ultimate power of this strategy is that it transforms you from someone who needs their validation to someone who has created validation through your own achievements and connections. Whether they return or not, you've built a life that satisfies you independently of their approval or participation. This transformation is attractive to everyone, including avoidance, because it demonstrates the kind of emotional health and self-respect that draws people in rather than pushing them away. The psychological integration of all 4 strategies. When these 4 strategies are implemented together, they create a comprehensive psychological shift that addresses every aspect of what makes avoidance both attracted to and afraid of emotional connection. You become someone who respects their boundaries while being impossible to control, someone who doesn't need them while being worth wanting, someone who has moved on while still being memorable. The combination of disappearing, becoming unpredictable, mirroring their energy, and living an untouchable life creates a perfect storm of psychological triggers that forces avoidance to reconsider their assumptions about you, themselves, and the relationship. You're no longer the predictable, available, emotionally dependent person they could take for granted. You've become someone who commands respect through strength rather than demands it through need. These strategies work because they transform you into the kind of person avoidants are naturally drawn to: independent, mysterious, emotionally stable, and capable of creating fulfillment without requiring their validation. However, unlike the typical attractions that fade once avoidance feels secure, your transformation is authentic and sustainable because it's based on genuine personal growth rather than temporary behavioral changes. The integrated approach also protects your emotional well-being regardless of their response. Whether they return or not, you've developed greater independence, emotional strength, and life satisfaction. You've learned to value yourself enough to require reciprocal emotional investment, and you've built a life that doesn't depend on their participation for fulfillment. Most importantly, these strategies prepare you to handle their potential return from a position of strength rather than desperation. If they do attempt to reconnect, you're no longer the same person they left. You're someone who has evolved beyond the dynamic that allowed them to take you for granted. This evolution changes the entire foundation of any potential reconciliation, requiring them to meet you at your new level rather than returning to previous patterns. The ultimate goal isn't to manipulate them into returning. It's to become someone who attracts healthy, reciprocal relationships while being strong enough to recognize and reject unhealthy ones. Whether that healthy relationship is with them after significant growth on their part, or with someone new who can appreciate what you offer, these strategies prepare you for emotional partnership based on mutual respect rather than one-sided accommodation.